A tale of betrayal and revenge. Emma, a young woman grieving her grandmother's death, discovers her parents and brother are plotting to steal her $10 million inheritance. At a tense family meeting, her mother's brazen toast reveals their true intentions. What follows is Emma's calculated journey to protect her legacy, expose their greed, and deliver consequences that will haunt them forever. The story begins. Everyone, please subscribe to my Sweet Revenge YouTube channel. The rain was a living thing that night, clawing at the tall, arched windows of my grandmother's estate with a fury that matched the ache in my chest. I sat in her study, a room I'd loved as a child for its towering bookshelves and the way Grandma Evelyn's laughter used to fill it. Now, it felt like a mausoleum, the air thick with loss. 2 days after her funeral, I was still drowning in grief, my eyes raw from crying, my body heavy with exhaustion. At 27, I was just an art curator, scraping by in a shoebox apartment in Boston. But Grandma had never cared about my bank account. She'd seen me, really seen me, when no one else bothered. The mahogany table gleamed under the chandelier's muted glow, its light catching the dust motes drifting lazily in the air. Across from me sat my family, my parents, Richard and Diane, and my older brother, Nathan. Their faces were schooled into expressions of mourning. But something was off. Diane's lips were too tight, her manicured nails tapping softly against her water glass. Richard's jaw was set, his eyes flicking to the door as if impatient for this ritual to end. Nathan, 32, lounged in his chair, his tailored suit screaming money. But his smirk was sharp, like a blade waiting to cut. Mr. Hargrove, Grandma's lawyer, sat at the head of the table, his gray suit blending into the room's somber palette. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, the faint creak of his chair breaking the silence. His hands, steady but weathered, unfolded a crisp document, the will. My stomach twisted. I wasn't ready to hear Grandma's final words, not when her absence still felt like a fresh wound. Hargrove cleared his throat, his voice measured but firm. Thank you all for coming. Evelyn's wishes are clear, and I'll read them as she intended. Diane leaned forward slightly, her diamond necklace catching the light. Her eyes were bright, too bright for someone who just buried her mother. Of course, Mr. Hargrove, we're all here to honor her memory. Her voice was smooth, practiced, but it grated on me. Honor her memory? Diane had barely visited Grandma in the hospital. I'd been there every day, holding her frail hand, reading her favorite poetry while machines beeped softly. Where was Diane then, with her perfect hair and designer handbags? Hargrove nodded, oblivious to the undercurrent. Evelyn's estate is substantial, after taxes and minor bequests. The primary assets, $10 million in liquid funds, plus this property and its contents, are to be distributed as follows. He paused, his eyes scanning the document. My heart pounded, loud enough I was sure they could hear it. Nathan shifted, his fingers drumming lightly on the table, his Rolex glinting. Richard's posture stiffened, his hands clasped tightly, knuckles pale. Diane's smile froze, a porcelain mask. Hargrove's voice cut through the tension. The entirety of the estate, $10 million. The house, and all associated assets, goes to her granddaughter, Emma Claire Dawson. The words landed like a grenade. My breath caught, my hands gripping the armrests of my chair. $10 million? The estate, with its 12 bedrooms, sprawling gardens, and walls lined with Grandma's priceless art collection? I stared at Hargrove, waiting for him to correct himself. But he only folded the document with a quiet rustle. Me? I whispered, my voice barely audible. My mind reeled. Grandma had always said she'd take care of me. But this was unimaginable. I pictured my cramped apartment, the leaky faucet, the second-hand couch. Now, I was an heiress? Diane's laugh broke the silence, sharp and brittle. Well, Emma, that's quite the surprise, isn't it? I looked at her. Her smile was a blade, her eyes cold despite the warmth in her tone. She tilted her head, studying me like I was a puzzle she hadn't expected to solve. My throat tightened. It's what Grandma wanted, I said, my voice steadier now, though my palms were clammy. Of course it is, Nathan drawled, leaning forward, his elbows on the table. His smirk widened, but his eyes were hard, calculating. But let's be real, Em, you're not exactly rolling in cash. That kind of money? It's a lot for someone who can't even afford a decent car. The jab stung. My beat-up Honda was a running joke in the family. But hearing it now, in this moment, felt like a slap. I met his gaze, my jaw tight. "I'll manage." Richard cleared his throat, his voice deep and authoritative. The one he used when closing business deals. He leaned back, his fingers steepled, his graying hair catching the light. "Emma, we're not questioning Evelyn's decision. We're just concerned. That's a tremendous responsibility for someone your age. You're what, 27? Still figuring things out." His tone was patronizing, like I was a child playing dress up. I felt heat rising in my cheeks. But I kept my voice level. "I'm not a kid, Dad. I've been on my own for years." "Exactly," Diane interjected, her voice syrupy but edged with something darker. She reached across the table, her hand hovering near mine. But I didn't take it. "You've been struggling, darling. We could help you, guide you. This money, it's a family matter." "Really? Family matter?" The words twisted in my gut. I glanced at Hargrove, hoping for backup, but he was scribbling notes. His face neutral, the room felt smaller, the air heavier, like the walls were closing in. "Guide me?" I said, my voice sharper now. "You mean control it?" Nathan chuckled, a low, mocking sound. "Paranoid much, Em? We're just looking out for you. You don't even know what to do with a house this size. You gonna live here alone? Turn it into an art gallery for your hipster friends?" The dig at my career hurt more than I'd admit. My job at the museum paid pennies. But it was mine, built on years of late nights and passion. Grandma had been proud of me. Why couldn't they? "Enough," I snapped, standing, my chair scraping the floor. My hands trembled, but my voice held firm. "This isn't about me. It's about what Grandma wanted. She trusted me, not you." Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Diane's smile vanished, her lips pressing into a thin line. Richard's eyes narrowed, his fingers stilling. Nathan leaned back, his smirk fading, replaced by something colder. Hargrove cleared his throat, breaking the tension. "If there are no further questions, I'll arrange for the transfer of assets. Emma, we'll need your signature on some documents." I nodded, barely hearing him. My family's gazes burned into me, Diane's icy stare, Richard's quiet fury, Nathan's smug disdain. I felt like prey, cornered by wolves wearing familiar faces. As Hargrove gathered his papers, Diane stood, smoothing her dress. "We'll talk soon, Emma," she said, her voice soft but laced with steel. "Family always comes first." The words were a promise and a threat. I grabbed my coat, my heart pounding, and left the study without looking back. In the foyer, rain lashed the windows, mirroring the storm inside me. Grandma's voice echoed in my mind. "Protect what's yours. Emma, they'll try to take it." I'd thought she was exaggerating. Now, I knew better. The rain hadn't let up in a week. As if the sky itself was mourning Grandma Evelyn. I stood outside her estate, my umbrella trembling in the wind, my reflection wavering in the wet cobblestone drive. The house loomed before me, its ivy-covered walls and glowing windows both familiar and foreign. A week had passed since Mr. Hargrove read the will, naming me the sole heir to $10 million and this sprawling mansion. The weight of it still hadn't settled, neither had the memory of my family's reactions, my mother Diane's sharp smile, my father Richard's patronizing tone, my brother Nathan's mocking smirk. Their words had lingered, like a bad taste I couldn't rinse out. Diane had insisted on this family meeting, tonight, her voice syrupy over the phone but edged with something I couldn't place. "We need to come together, Emma," she'd said, "for Evelyn's sake." I didn't buy it, but I came anyway, driven by a mix of duty and dread. My boots squelched as I crossed the threshold, the heavy oak door creaking shut behind me. The foyer smelled of polished wood and roses. Grandma's favorite, their scent now cloying in her absence. I followed the sound of laughter, sharp, artificial, toward the dining room. The chandelier cast a golden glow, its crystals fracturing light across the mahogany table. A bottle of vintage champagne sat open, its bubbles catching the light like tiny stars. My family was already seated, Diane at the head, her blonde hair swept into an elegant updo, diamonds glittering at her throat, Richard to her left, his gray suit impeccable, his face a mask of calm authority, Nathan to her right, slouched in his chair, swirling a flute of champagne, his Rolex glinting with every move. Their laughter died as I entered, their eyes locking onto me like hawks spotting prey. "Emma, darling, you made it." Diane rose, her smile wide but cold. Like a porcelain doll's, she swept toward me, air kissing both cheeks. her perfume overwhelming, jasmine and ambition. Her hands lingered on my shoulders, her grip just tight enough to feel possessive. I shrugged her off, my stomach twisting. Traffic was bad, I muttered, setting my damp bag on the floor. My jeans and sweater felt out of place in this room of wealth. A reminder of the life I'd built outside their world. Sit, Diane urged, gesturing to a chair across from Nathan. Her voice was warm, but her eyes were calculating, scanning me like I was a ledger to balance. I sat, my hands clasped tightly in my lap, my pulse racing. The table was set with Grandma's finest china, as if this were a celebration, not a wake. A single rose rested in a crystal vase, its petals wilting slightly, mirroring my unease. "What's this about?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. My eyes flicked to the champagne, then to their faces. They were too composed, too polished, like actors rehearsing a scene. Richard raised his glass, his smile tight, practiced. "A toast, Emma, to your grandmother's memory, and to us, her family, coming together in her honor." The word family landed like a stone. I didn't move, my fingers digging into my palms. Nathan chuckled, a low, mocking sound, and leaned forward, his eyes glinting with amusement. "Come on, Em," he said, swirling his champagne. "Don't be so grim. We're celebrating. You're a millionaire now, right? Time to lighten up." His tone was teasing, but it cut deep, like a blade wrapped in silk. My jaw tightened. Celebrating what, exactly? Diane's laugh was high, almost musical, but it grated like nails on a chalkboard. She stood, her glass raised high, the chandelier's light catching the champagne's bubbles. Her dress shimmered, a deep emerald green that screamed money. She tilted her head, her smile radiant but predatory, her voice ringing with a confidence that chilled me. "To the future," she said, her eyes locked on mine. "To Evelyn's legacy, which binds us all. This wealth, her gift, belongs to this family. Emma, together, we'll make her proud." The room spun, my breath caught, my heart pounding so loud I was sure they heard it. Her words weren't a toast, they were a claim. My inheritance, the $10 million, the estate, Grandma's art collection, it wasn't mine in their eyes. It was theirs, already carved up in their minds. As if I were just a placeholder. The rose in the vase seemed to wilt further, its petals curling inward. I forced my voice to stay steady, though my hands trembled under the table. "I'm not sharing it." The silence was deafening, the air thick with tension. Diane's smile froze, her glass still raised, her knuckles whitening around the stem. Richard's eyes narrowed, his fingers pausing mid-tap on the table. Nathan's smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of anger, his jaw clenching. "Emma," Diane said, lowering her glass slowly, her voice soft but laced with steel. "Don't be selfish. This kind of money, it's too much for one person. We're your family. We deserve a say in how it's used." "Deserve?" I stood, my chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. My voice shook, but anger burned through my grief, giving me strength. "You didn't even visit her, Mom, not once in the hospital. I was there every day, reading to her, holding her hand while she faded. Where were you? Shopping? Planning your next gala?" Diane's face flushed, her lips parting in shock. She recovered quickly, her smile returning, but it was brittle now, cracking at the edges. "That's unfair, Emma. You know how busy I was." Evelyn understood. "Understood?" I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "She cried for you, Mom. She asked why you didn't come. And you," I turned to Nathan, my voice rising, "you called her once a month. If that, to ask for money for your failing startup." Nathan slammed his glass down, champagne sloshing onto the table. "Watch it, Em," he growled, leaning forward. "You think you're better than us? You're a nobody curator with a degree that's worth less than my watch. You'll burn through that money in a year without us." His words were a punch, but I didn't flinch. I met his gaze, my eyes blazing. "Maybe I will, but it's mine to burn. Grandma chose me, not you." Richard stood now, his presence commanding, his voice low and dangerous. "Enough, Emma, you're being childish. This isn't just about you. This family has obligations, debts, investments. We can't let you squander Evelyn's legacy." "Squander?" I stepped back, my hands balling into fists. "You mean you can't let me keep what's mine? You're not worried about her legacy, you're worried about your bank accounts." The room was a pressure cooker, the air crackling with unspoken threats. Diane's smile was gone, her eyes cold as ice. She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper, each word dripping with menace. We'll talk again, Emma, soon. Family always comes first. I grabbed my bag, my heart pounding in my ears. Not this family, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. I turned and stormed out, the dining room's opulence fading behind me. In the foyer, I paused, catching my reflection in a gilded mirror. My eyes were wide, my face pale, but there was something new, resolve. Grandma's voice echoed in my mind, soft but unyielding. Protect what's yours. Emma, they'll try to take it. I doubted her warning, chalked it up to her illness. But as the rain roared outside, I knew she'd been right. This wasn't a meeting, it was a declaration of war. Chapter 3. The plot uncovered. The weight of Nathan's threat, "You'll regret it," clung to me like damp fog, chilling my bones even days after the family meeting. I couldn't shake the image of my mother's raised champagne glass, her smug toast claiming my inheritance as theirs, or the cold menace in her whispered promise, "Family always comes first." Sleep eluded me, my nights spent pacing my cramped Boston apartment, its peeling wallpaper and dripping faucet a stark contrast to Grandma Evelyn's opulent estate. At 27, I was still reeling from her death, my heart a bruise that throbbed with every memory of her gentle smile. But grief was giving way to something sharper, suspicion. I sat on my sagging couch, the glow of my laptop casting shadows across the room. Rain tapped the window, a restless rhythm that mirrored my racing thoughts. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitating before dialing Mr. Hargrove, Grandma's lawyer. His voice, when he answered, was clipped, professional, but tinged with concern. "Emma," he said, the faint rustle of papers in the background. "It's late. Everything all right?" I clutched the phone, my knuckles pale, my voice low as if my family could hear me through the walls. "Mr. Hargrove, can someone contest Grandma's will? I mean, could they take it from me?" A pause, heavy with implication. "The will is airtight," he said finally. "Evelyn was sharp as a tack when she signed it. And it's notarized, but," his voice dropped, cautious, "families can get creative when money's involved. Be careful, Emma, watch your back." Creative, the word sent a shiver down my spine. I thanked him, hung up, and stared at the ceiling, where a water stain spread like a bruise. My family's faces flashed in my mind, Diane's icy smile, Richard's steely authority, Nathan's mocking smirk. They weren't just greedy, they were dangerous. The next evening, I drove to the estate, my beat-up Honda rattling in the rain. Diane had invited me for dinner, her voice over the phone dripping with false warmth. "We need to mend fences." Darling, I didn't trust her, but I went, driven by a need to know what they were planning. The estate loomed against the stormy sky, its windows glowing like eyes watching my approach. I parked near the garage, my hands trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. Grandma's voice echoed in my head, "Protect what's yours. Emma, they'll try to take it." Inside, the foyer was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of roses and wax polish. Diane greeted me with an air kiss, her perfume cloying, her smile a mask. "You're soaked, darling," she said, ushering me toward the dining room. "Come, warm up." Dinner was a charade. Richard sat at the head of the table, his gray suit immaculate, his voice booming about his car dealership's latest deal. Nathan slouched beside him, scrolling his phone, his Rolex catching the chandelier's light. They laughed, clinked glasses, and acted as if the meeting a week ago hadn't happened. But I saw the glances they exchanged, quick, secretive, like thieves planning a heist. My stomach churned, the roasted lamb on my plate untouched. "Emma, you're so quiet," Diane said, tilting her head, her diamond earrings glinting. "Everything all right?" I forced a smile, my fingers tight around my fork. "Just tired. Work's been busy." Nathan snorted, not looking up from his phone. "Busy? Curating dusty paintings for pennies? You should quit that job. You're rich now." His tone was teasing, but it stung, a reminder of their disdain for my life. I bit my tongue, my eyes flicking to Richard, who watched me with a steady, unreadable gaze. After dinner, Diane suggested coffee in the library. "I'll join you soon," I said, excusing myself to the bathroom. But I didn't go there. Instead, I slipped down the hall, my sneakers silent on the hardwood floor, my heart pounding. The library door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the corridor. Voices drifted out, low, urgent, unmistakably theirs. I pressed myself against the wall, my breath shallow, my phone trembling in my hand as I hit record. The scent of old leather and dust filled my nose, the rain's patter muffling my movements. Diane's voice came first, sharp and venomous. "We can't let her keep it all," she hissed, her words slicing through the air. "She's too stubborn, Richard. She'll ruin everything." "Calm down," Richard said, his voice low, controlled, but laced with frustration. "We need to be smart. Hargrove's no fool, he'll fight for her." Nathan's laugh was bitter, cutting. "Relax, Mom, I've got a guy, a lawyer from the city. He says we can claim undue influence, say Evelyn was coerced. Old ladies are easy to paint as senile." My blood ran cold, my fingers tightening around the phone. Coerced? Grandma had been sharper at 85 than Nathan would ever be. I pictured her in the hospital, her eyes bright despite the pain, dictating her wishes to Hargrove with unwavering clarity. "Undue influence might not stick," Richard said, his tone calculating. "But there's another angle. Guardianship. We say Emma's unstable, can't handle the money. Her job's a joke, her apartment's a dump. A judge might buy it." Diane's voice softened, but it was laced with malice. "She's always been fragile. Remember her little breakdown in college? We could use that. A few doctor's notes, some testimony." My heart stopped. Fragile? The breakdown was a single panic attack during finals. Years ago, when I'd been juggling 2 jobs and a full course load. They'd barely checked on me then, now they'd weaponize it? Nathan chuckled, smug. "She'll crack under pressure. Always does. We just need to push her a little." I felt sick, my knees trembling. The phone shook in my hand. But I kept recording, every word a dagger. They weren't my family, they were conspirators, plotting to strip me of everything Grandma had entrusted to me. The library's shadows seemed to close in, the bookshelves looming like silent witnesses. Footsteps approached the door. I froze, my breath catching, but they stopped. Diane's voice dropped to a whisper. Chillingly calm. "We get this right, and we're set for life. No more debts, no more scraping by. Emma's just a hurdle." I slipped away, my heart hammering, my sneakers barely making a sound. In the bathroom, I locked the door, my reflection in the mirror pale and wide-eyed. My hands shook as I stopped the recording. The file saved with a soft beep. I splashed cold water on my face, my breath ragged, but my mind was racing. They thought I was weak, a pawn to be moved. But they'd underestimated me. Grandma's legacy wasn't just money, it was her trust, her love, her belief in me. I wouldn't let them take it. Back in my apartment that night, I played the recording again, their voices echoing in the dark. Diane's venom, Richard's cold logic, Nathan's arrogance. They'd laid bare their greed, their betrayal. I saved the file to a cloud drive, my fingers steady now. I wasn't the fragile girl they thought. I was Emma Claire Dawson, and I was done being their victim. Tomorrow, I'd call a lawyer of my own. This wasn't just about protecting my inheritance, it was about making them pay. The recording burned a hole in my soul, my family's voices looping in my head like a cruel refrain. Diane's venomous hiss. Emma's just a hurdle. Nathan's smug assurance that I'd crack. Richard's cold plan to declare me unstable. They'd stripped away any illusion of love. I sat in my Boston apartment, the rain's relentless patter against the window a mirror to my racing thoughts. My laptop glowed, the audio file time-stamped from that night in the library. A digital dagger I'd wield when the time was right. At 27, I was still raw from Grandma Evelyn's death, her absence a wound that bled anew with every betrayal. But I wasn't the fragile girl they thought. I was done being prey. The next morning, I stood in my cramped living room, coffee gone cold in my mug, my eyes fixed on a photo of Grandma pinned to the fridge. Her smile was warm, her silver hair catching sunlight in the estate's garden. "Protect what's yours," she'd told me, her voice firm despite the cancer stealing her strength. I'd nodded then, not understanding the weight of her words. Now, I did. I pulled out my phone, my fingers steady despite the knot in my stomach, and searched for a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, someone ruthless. Someone who'd tear through my family's schemes like a storm. Reviews led me to Clara Vaughn, a Boston attorney known for dismantling family disputes with surgical precision. Her website showed a woman in her 50s, sharp-eyed and unsmiling, her bio boasting wins against corporate giants and greedy heirs. I dialed her office, my heart pounding as the line rang. "Vaughn Legal," a crisp voice answered. "How can we assist you?" "I need to speak with Clara Vaughn," I said, my voice firm but edged with urgency. It's about a contested inheritance. I don't have much time. An appointment was set for that afternoon. I dressed carefully, swapping my usual jeans for a black blazer and slacks, hoping to look like someone who belonged in a $10 million fight. My reflection in the mirror was pale, dark circles under my eyes, but my jaw was set. I wasn't just fighting for money, I was fighting for Grandma's trust. Her legacy, her belief in me. Clara's office was a world away from the estate's old money grandeur. Glass walls gleamed under fluorescent lights, the Boston skyline a gray blur through the rain-streaked windows. Clara herself was smaller than I'd expected, her dark hair streaked with silver. But her presence filled the room. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, studied me as I sat across her desk, my hands clasped to hide their trembling. "Ms. Dawson," she said, her voice low and measured. "You said this was urgent. Tell me everything." I took a deep breath, the words spilling out like a dam breaking. "My grandmother left me $10 million in her estate. My parents and brother, they're trying to take it. They think I'm unfit, too young, unstable. I overheard them planning to contest the will. Maybe even push for guardianship." Clara's eyebrow arched, her pen pausing mid-note. "That's bold, and dangerous. Do you have proof?" I slid my phone across the desk. The recording queued up. "I taped them, last night, at the estate. They didn't know I was listening." She pressed play, and their voices filled the room. Chillingly clear. Diane's venom. "We can't let her keep it all." Nathan's arrogance. "She'll crack under pressure." Richard's strategy. Guardianship, a judge might buy it. Clara's face remained impassive, but her eyes narrowed, a predator scenting blood. When the recording ended, she leaned back, tapping her pen against her chin. "This is gold, Emma," she said, her voice almost a purr. "They're admitting intent to defraud. With this, we can bury them, but we need more context. Motive. Why are they so desperate?" I swallowed, my throat dry. "I don't know. They've always lived big cars. Vacations. My dad's dealership. Maybe they're in debt. Nathan's startup's been struggling, I think." Clara nodded, scribbling notes. "We'll dig into their finances. If they're drowning, it's motive." "What about your grandmother? You said you cared for her. Any evidence?" "Everything," I said, my voice cracking. "Hospital logs, photos, nurses who saw me every day. I read her poetry, brought her flowers. She trusted me." Clara's gaze softened, just for a moment. "Good, that's your armor. They'll paint you as unfit. We'll paint them as neglectful. Greedy. You were Evelyn's caretaker, they were absent. Juries eat that up." I exhaled, relief mingling with dread. "What's next?" "We build a fortress," Clara said, leaning forward, her eyes blazing. "Financial audits on your family. Witness statements from the hospital. And you keep playing nice. Go to their dinners, smile, act like you're softening, let them think they're winning. Meanwhile, we gather more dirt." I nodded, my resolve hardening. "I can do that." She handed me a contract, her smile sharp. "Sign here, and Emma, don't trust anyone, not even family." I signed, my hand steady now, Clara's warning echoing Grandma's. As I left her office, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, but the storm inside me raged on. My family thought I was a hurdle to clear. They'd learn I was a wall they couldn't climb. Days later, I returned to the estate for another dinner, my phone hidden in my pocket, set to record. Diane greeted me with her usual air kiss, her smile as false as ever. "Emma, you look tired," she said, her voice dripping with concern. "This inheritance business, it's too much for you, isn't it?" I forced a smile, my stomach churning. "It's a lot," I said vaguely, playing the part Clara had scripted. At the table, Richard was all charm, pouring wine with a steady hand. "We're here for you, Emma," he said, his eyes searching mine. "You don't have to do this alone." Nathan smirked, cutting into his steak. "Yeah, let the grown-ups handle the money. Stick to your art thing." Their words were bait, meant to draw me out. But I kept my face neutral, my voice soft. "Maybe you're right. I'll think about it." Diane's eyes lit up, a predator sensing weakness. "That's my girl," she said, patting my hand. Her touch was cold, her rings digging into my skin. Later, in the library, I lingered as they cleared the table, my phone catching Nathan's voice through the open door. "She's caving," he said, smug. "Told you she's weak. My lawyer's ready to file undue influence. Guardianship, the works." I slipped away, my heart pounding but my resolve ironclad. Clara's team was already working. pulling hospital records, contacting nurses, and digging into my family's finances. That night, in my apartment, I played the new recording. Nathan's arrogance a fuel for my fire. I opened my laptop, emailing Clara the file, my fingers flying. A photo of Grandma fell from my desk, her smile catching the lamplight. I picked it up, my throat tight. "I'm doing this for you," I whispered. "They won't win. The fight was just beginning." But I was ready. My family had drawn the battle lines. But I'd build a defense they couldn't breach. And when the time came, I'd make them pay. The air in my Boston apartment felt charged, like the calm before a lightning strike. I sat at my rickety kitchen table, my laptop open, the glow illuminating a photo of Grandma Evelyn pinned to the fridge, her silver hair glinting in the estate's garden. Her smile a quiet promise. The recordings I'd made of my family's scheming played softly, their voices a venomous chorus. Diane's hissed, "She's just a hurdle." Nathan's smug, "She'll crack." Richard's cold, "Guardianship, a judge might buy it." Each word fueled my fire, turning grief into resolve. At 27, I'd spent weeks mourning Grandma. But now I was done crying. They wanted a fight? I'd give them one they'd never forget. Clara Vaughn's words echoed in my mind. Let them think they're winning. I'd taken her advice, playing the dutiful daughter at family dinners, smiling through their barbs, my phone always recording. But tonight, I was stepping up my game. Clara's team had been digging hospital records, nurses' statements, and now, a financial audit of my family's accounts. The pieces were falling into place, and I was ready to strike. I met Clara at her office that morning. The Boston skyline a gray smudge through the rain-streaked glass. Her office was all sharp angles, glass desk, steel chairs, a single orchid in a white vase. Clara, in a tailored navy suit, leaned back in her chair, her sharp eyes studying me as I slid a new recording across her desk. Another one, I said, my voice steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. From last night's dinner. Nathan's getting cocky. Clara pressed play, her expression unreadable. Nathan's voice filled the room. Smug and careless. She's softening. Mom, told you she'd cave. My guy's ready to file the papers, undue influence. Guardianship, whatever sticks. Diane's laugh followed, sharp and triumphant. Good. We'll have that money by summer. Clara stopped the recording, her pen tapping the desk rhythmically. They're overconfident, she said, a faint smile curling her lips. That's their mistake. What else do you have? I pulled a USB drive from my bag. My hand steady now. I borrowed Richard's laptop during dinner. He left it open. There's emails, shady ones. He's been using the estate as collateral for a loan he can't pay back. It's not even his to pledge. Clara's eyes lit up. Predatory, fraudulent misrepresentation. That's a felony. Emma, if he's leveraged property he doesn't own. We've got him. She leaned forward, her voice low. Electric. Our audit's turning up dirt too. Nathan's startup? Bleeding cash. $2 million in debt. Diane's got $500 in hidden credit card debt. Jewelry and trips she didn't tell Richard about. They're desperate. That's why they're coming for you. My stomach twisted, not with shock but with grim satisfaction. They thought I'd roll over. I said, my voice low, fierce. They thought wrong. Clara nodded, scribbling notes. We're building a fortress. Emma, these recordings, the emails, the audit, they're our ammunition. But we need to be surgical. Keep going to their dinners. Keep recording. Let them dig their own graves. When they file their suit, we'll hit back with everything. I met her gaze, my jaw tight. And if they push for guardianship? Call me unstable? Clara's smile was razor sharp. Let them try. We've got hospital logs proving you were Evelyn's rock, daily visits. Nurses who'll swear you were her anchor. They abandoned her, you didn't. No judge will buy their lies with that on the table. I exhaled, relief cutting through my tension. How long until we're ready? A week, maybe 2, Clara said, standing, her presence commanding. Stay sharp, Emma, they're not done scheming, and don't let them see your strength, not yet. I left her office, the drizzle outside mirroring the storm inside me. Clara's confidence was a lifeline, but the weight of my family's betrayal pressed harder. They weren't just greedy, they were willing to destroy me to get what they wanted. That evening, I drove to the estate, my phone tucked in my pocket, set to record. The dining room was as opulent as ever, the chandelier casting fractured light across the mahogany table. Diane greeted me with her usual air kiss, her perfume cloying. her smile a mask of maternal warmth. "Emma, you're looking better," she said, her eyes scanning me like a ledger. "Settling into your new role?" I forced a smile, my heart pounding. "Trying to," I said softly, playing the part Clara had coached. "It's overwhelming." Nathan smirked from across the table. "Cutting into his steak. Told you, that money's too big for you. Why don't you let us take the pressure off? You know, share the load." His tone was casual, but his eyes were hungry, watching for any crack in my facade. I sipped my water, my fingers steady despite the fire in my chest. "I'm thinking about it," I lied, my voice soft, hesitant. Richard leaned forward, his gray suit pristine, his voice smooth but probing. "That's wise, Emma. We've got experience, investments, properties. You don't want to make mistakes with Evelyn's legacy." The word legacy stung, a reminder of their hypocrisy. They hadn't cared about Grandma's wishes, they'd ignored her in her final months. I pictured her frail hand in mine, her whispered advice, "Protect what's yours." I nodded, my smile tight. "Maybe you're right, Dad. I'll consider it." Diane's eyes gleamed, her hand reaching for mine, her rings cold against my skin. "That's my girl," she said, her voice dripping with false pride. "We're family, Emma. We'll take care of everything." Her touch made my skin crawl. But I didn't pull away. I was a spy in their midst, gathering their words, their lies. After dinner, as they lingered over coffee, I excused myself to the bathroom, my phone still recording. In the library, I caught Nathan's voice through the cracked door, smug and careless. "She's folding," he said, his laugh sharp. "I told my lawyer to push the guardianship angle. She's got no spine, never has." Diane's voice was softer, but no less vicious. "Keep her off balance, Nathan. A little pressure, and she'll sign it all over." I slipped away, my heart hammering but my resolve ironclad. Back in my apartment, I uploaded the recording to Clara's secure server, my fingers flying. Clara's team was moving fast, subpoenas for Nathan's startup records, bank statements showing Diane's hidden debts, proof of Richard's fraudulent loan. I opened my laptop, a hospital photo of Grandma and me falling from a folder. We were laughing, her hand on my cheek, tubes trailing from her arm. My throat tightened, but my eyes were dry. "This is for you," I whispered, touching her face. The counterstrike was in motion. My family thought they were hunters, but I was setting the trap. They'd face the consequences soon enough, and I'd be the one holding the gavel. The Boston courthouse loomed like a fortress, its stone facade cold under the May sun. Inside, the courtroom was a cauldron of anticipation, the air thick with the murmurs of reporters and the rustle of legal papers. I sat at the plaintiff's table, my hands clasped tightly to hide their trembling, my black blazer stiff against my shoulders. At 27, I felt out of place in this world of polished wood and stern judges. But Clara Vaughn's presence beside me was a steel anchor. Her navy suit was impeccable, her silver-streaked hair pulled back, her eyes sharp as she scanned the room. Across the aisle, my family sat like actors in a tragedy they'd scripted themselves. Diane, my mother, wore a tailored cream dress, her blonde hair flawless, her face a mask of mournful dignity as she dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief. Richard, my father, sat rigid, his gray suit pressed to perfection, his jaw tight as he stared straight ahead. Nathan, my brother, slouched slightly, his Rolex glinting under the courtroom lights, his usual smirk replaced by a flicker of unease. They thought they'd win, thought their lies about Grandma Evelyn's coercion and my instability would strip me of the $10 million inheritance. They were wrong. Clara leaned close, her voice a low whisper. "Stay calm, Emma, we've got them cornered. When you testify, speak from the heart, let the judge see you." I nodded, my throat dry, my heart pounding like a war drum. Grandma's voice echoed in my mind. "Protect what's yours, Emma, they'll try to take it." I'd spent weeks building my defense, recordings, emails, financial audits, turning their betrayal into my weapon. Today, I'd wield it. The judge, a stern woman with gray hair and piercing eyes, banged her gavel. "Court is in session," she announced, her voice echoing off the high ceilings. "We're here to address the contestation of Evelyn Dawson's will. Counsel, proceed." My family's lawyer, a slick man named Bennett with a shark-like smile, rose first. "Your Honor," he began, his voice smooth, "we contend that Evelyn Dawson, under undue influence from her granddaughter, Emma Dawson, was coerced into altering her will. Furthermore, we question Emma's capacity to manage such a substantial estate, given her unstable financial and emotional state. The word unstable hit like a slap. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. But Clara's hand on my arm steadied me. She stood, her presence commanding, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. Your Honor, this is a baseless attempt to defraud my client, Clara said, her tone icy. We have evidence proving not only Evelyn's sound mind but the plaintiffs, Diane, Richard, and Nathan Dawson, deliberate neglect and financial desperation. Their motive is greed, plain and simple. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Diane's handkerchief froze mid-dab, her eyes narrowing. Nathan shifted, his fingers twitching. Richard's face remained stoic, but his knuckles whitened on the table. Clara called her first witness, Nurse Linda Carter, who'd cared for Grandma in her final months. Linda, a kind-faced woman in her 40s, took the stand, her voice steady but emotional. Emma was there every day, Linda said, glancing at me with a small smile. She read poetry, brought flowers, held Evelyn's hand. Evelyn spoke of her with pride, said Emma was her heart. The others, she hesitated, her eyes flicking to my family. I saw Diane once, maybe twice. Richard and Nathan? Never. Diane's face flushed, her lips parting as if to protest. But Bennett hushed her. I felt a spark of vindication. But it was fleeting. Grandma's absence still ached. Clara played the recordings next. My family's voices booming through the courtroom's speakers. Diane's venom. We can't let her keep it all. Nathan's arrogance. She'll crack under pressure. Richard's calculation. Guardianship. A judge might buy it. The gallery erupted in murmurs. Reporters scribbling furiously. Diane's handkerchief fell to her lap. Her face pale. Nathan's eyes widened. His smirk gone. Richard's jaw clenched. His gaze darting to Bennett, who looked blindsided. Your Honor, Clara said, her voice rising. These recordings, made by my client, reveal a coordinated plot to defraud Emma Dawson of her rightful inheritance. They planned to falsely claim Evelyn's coercion and Emma's instability. Bennett stood, his voice sharp but unsteady. Objection. These recordings were obtained without consent, potentially inadmissible. Clara didn't flinch. They were made on Evelyn's property, where Emma has legal access. No expectation of privacy exists in a shared space. The recordings are valid. The judge nodded, her expression unreadable. Overruled. Continue. Ms. Vaughn. Clara called a financial expert, Dr. Alan Roth, who laid bare my family's secrets. Nathan Dawson's startup is $2.3 million in debt, he said, projecting bank statements onto a screen. Diane Dawson has $500 in hidden credit card debt, luxury purchases, undisclosed to her husband. Richard Dawson used Evelyn's estate as collateral for a $1.5 million loan he cannot repay. A clear act of fraud. The courtroom buzzed, the weight of their desperation exposed. Diane's hand gripped Richard's arm, her nails digging in. Nathan slumped, his face ashen. Richard stared at the floor, his control crumbling. When I took the stand, my legs trembled, but my voice held firm. The courtroom felt like a spotlight, every eye on me. I clutched a locket Grandma had given me, its weight grounding me. Ms. Dawson, Clara asked, her tone gentle, why did Evelyn choose you as her heir? I swallowed, my eyes meeting the judge's. Because she trusted me, I said, my voice steady but thick with emotion. I was with her every day in the hospital. I read her frost, brought her lilies, listened to her stories. She knew I'd honor her legacy, her art, her home, her heart. I gestured to my family, my hand shaking. They didn't care. They visited once, maybe twice, in months. They wanted her money, not her. Diane stood, her voice shrill, her composure shattered. You ungrateful child, we raised you, we're your family. The judge banged her gavel, her voice sharp. Mrs. Dawson, sit down or you'll be removed. Diane sank back, tears streaming, but they were angry, not remorseful. Nathan stared at his hands, Richard's face a mask of defeat. Clara stepped closer, her voice soft but piercing. Emma, what did Evelyn say about her legacy? A flashback hit. Grandma in her hospital bed, tubes trailing, her hand frail but warm in mine. Protect what's yours, Emma, she'd whispered. They'll try to take it, but you're stronger than they know. I met Clara's gaze, my voice breaking but resolute. She told me to protect it, to keep her art alive, her home open, her love remembered. I won't let them destroy that. The gallery was silent. the air heavy with my words. Clara nodded, her eyes gleaming with pride. No further questions. Bennett's cross-examination was weak, his questions grasping at straws. Ms. Dawson, isn't it true you struggled financially? That you had emotional issues in college? I leaned forward, my voice steady, fire in my eyes. I worked 2 jobs to pay for school. I had 1 panic attack years ago. If that's instability, then what's hiding $500,000 in debt? I glanced at Diane, whose face flushed crimson. The judge's lips twitched, a hint of a smile. Bennett sat, defeated. As I stepped down, my family's eyes burned into me, Diane's fury, Nathan's panic, Richard's shame. They'd thought I'd crumble, but I'd built a fortress. The gavel fell, the judge's voice ringing. We'll reconvene tomorrow for closing arguments. I left the courtroom, Clara's hand on my shoulder. You were perfect, she whispered. They're done. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, warming my face. I clutched Grandma's locket, my heart steady. The battle wasn't over, but I'd drawn blood. They'd face the consequences soon enough. The Boston courthouse's marble halls echoed with the click of my heels as I walked out. The judge's ruling still ringing in my ears. The will stands. The contestation is dismissed. My $10 million inheritance, Grandma Evelyn's estate. Her art, her trust, was mine. Untouchable. Clara Vaughn's hand rested on my shoulder, her sharp eyes glinting with triumph. You did it, Emma, she whispered, her voice warm but firm. They're finished. I nodded, my throat tight, my fingers clutching the locket Grandma had given me, its silver cool against my skin. At 27, I'd fought a war one never wanted, exposing my family's greed in a courtroom packed with reporters. Diane's shrill outburst, Nathan's panicked slump, Richard's ashen defeat, they'd haunted me all night. But as sunlight streamed through the courthouse windows, casting long shadows, I felt no joy. Justice was mine, but it tasted like ash. Outside, reporters swarmed, their cameras flashing, their questions a cacophony. Ms. Dawson, how do you feel about your victory? Will you forgive your family? I shielded my face, Clara guiding me to her car, her voice cutting through the noise. No comment. In my apartment that evening, I sat on my sagging couch, the silence heavy. My laptop glowed with news alerts. Dawson family's greed exposed in court. $10 million inheritance battle ends in defeat. The judge had ordered my family to pay $200 in legal fees, a sum I knew they couldn't afford. Clara's countersuit for attempted fraud was already filed. The recordings of their scheming, Diane's venom, Nathan's arrogance, Richard's cold calculations, a legal guillotine waiting to fall. I opened a bottle of wine, pouring a glass, my hands steady but my heart conflicted. Grandma's photo on the fridge caught my eye, her smile soft, her eyes knowing. Was it worth it? I whispered, my voice breaking. I'd protected her legacy, but at what cost? My family wasn't just defeated, they were unraveling. And I'd lit the fuse. The fallout came swiftly, each blow a testament to their greed. Clara's team sent me updates, their findings brutal in their clarity. Nathan's startup, already $2.3 million in debt, collapsed under scrutiny. Investors pulled out, citing fraud after Clara's audit revealed falsified financials. Nathan faced criminal charges, his Rolex pawned to cover bail. I saw him once, outside a coffee shop, his tailored suit replaced by a wrinkled hoodie, his face gaunt, his eyes hollow. Emma, he called, his voice raw, desperate. I stopped, my heart lurching. You didn't have to destroy me. We could have worked it out. I stared at him, my jaw tight, memories of his library boasts, shield crack, cutting deep. You tried to take everything. I said, my voice low, steady. You called me weak. You were wrong. He flinched, his hands shaking. I'm your brother. Doesn't that mean anything? Not anymore, I said, turning away, my boots clicking on the pavement. His plea echoed behind me. But I didn't look back. Diane's world crumbled next. The audit exposed her $500 in hidden credit card debt, jewelry, designer bags, secret trips. Richard, blindsided, confronted her, their marriage fracturing under the weight of her lies. I heard through Clara that Diane had moved into a cramped rental. Her diamonds sold, her socialite status a fading memory. She called me once, her voice slurred, venomous. You think you've won? She hissed. The clink of ice in a glass audible. You're nothing without that money. Emma, nothing. I gripped the phone, my heart pounding but my voice calm. I'm Grandma's heir. Mom, that's more than you'll ever be. I hung up, her curses cut off by silence. My hands trembled, but I felt no guilt. She'd chosen greed over family, over me. Richard's fall was quieter but no less devastating. His car dealership, leveraged against the estate he didn't own, was seized by creditors. He sold it at a loss, retreating to a modest condo. His pride shattered. Clara sent me a photo of him leaving the dealership. His gray hair disheveled, his suit rumpled. He looked broken, a king dethroned. I drove to the estate that weekend. The mansion's ivy-covered walls glowing under the sun. The library, once a den of their scheming, was mine now, its leather-bound books a silent testament to Grandma's love. I ran my fingers over a first-edition Frost, tears pricking my eyes. A flashback hit, Grandma in her hospital bed, her frail hand squeezing mine. They'll try to take it, she'd whispered, her voice fierce despite the pain. But you're stronger than they know. I sank into a chair, the locket heavy around my neck. I did it, I whispered, my voice thick. It's safe now. Clara called that evening, her voice brisk but triumphant. The countersuit's moving forward, she said. Attempted fraud, plus punitive damages. They'll be paying for years. You want to press harder? We could push for jail time. I stared out the window. The estate's gardens blooming with roses Grandma loved. Jail time would crush them. But it wouldn't heal me. No, I said, my voice steady. They've lost enough. Let them live with it. Clara paused, then chuckled softly. You're tougher than I thought. Emma, Evelyn would be proud. I hung up, a bittersweet ache in my chest. My family's ruin wasn't a victory to celebrate, it was a necessity. A price paid for their betrayal. I walked to the estate's gallery, where Grandma's art collection hung, each painting a piece of her soul. I'd restore it, open it to the public, make it a living legacy. In my apartment that night, I stood before Grandma's photo, a glass of wine in hand. To you, I whispered, raising it to her smile. And to justice. The silence was my answer. But it felt like peace. My family had drawn the battle lines. But I'd won the war. They'd face their consequences. And I'd carry Grandma's love forward. Unbroken. The rose garden glowed under the June sunset, its petals a riot of crimson and pink, swaying gently in the warm breeze. I stood at its heart, a glass of champagne in my hand, the bubbles catching the golden light like tiny promises. Grandma Evelyn's estate stretched around me, its ivy-covered walls and arched windows no longer a battleground but a sanctuary. A year had passed since the courtroom victory that secured my $10 million inheritance. Since I watched my family, Diane, Richard, Nathan, crumble under the weight of their greed. At 28, I was no longer the grieving girl they'd underestimated. I was Emma Claire Dawson, heir to more than money, a legacy of love, strength, and justice. The garden was Grandma's haven, where she'd taught me to prune roses, her hands steady despite the years, her laughter soft as she shared stories of her youth. Now, it was mine to tend, its blooms a living testament to her spirit. I wore her silver locket, its weight familiar against my chest, a reminder of her whispered advice in the hospital. Protect what's yours. Emma, they'll try to take it, but you're stronger than they know. I closed my eyes, the breeze carrying the scent of roses, and let the memories flood back. The courtroom's wood-paneled walls, where Clara Vaughn's voice had sliced through my family's lies. Diane's shrill outburst, "You ungrateful child," Nathan's panicked slump, Richard's ashen defeat, the recordings I'd made, their voices damning them, Diane's venom, Nathan's arrogance, Richard's cold calculations, the judge's gavel, sealing their fate. The will stood, their suit dismissed, $200 in legal fees they couldn't pay. The fallout had been swift, brutal. Nathan's startup, $2.3 million in debt, collapsed, his Rolex pawned, his smugness replaced by hollow desperation. I saw him once, outside a coffee shop, his plea, "I'm your brother," ringing in my ears as I walked away. Diane's hidden $500 debt shattered her marriage. Her diamonds sold, her voice slurred and venomous over the phone. "You're nothing without that money." Richard's dealership was seized, his pride broken in a rumpled suit outside a modest condo. Clara's countersuit for attempted fraud ensured they'd pay for years, their lives a shadow of the opulence they'd chased. I didn't gloat. Their ruin wasn't a trophy, it was a necessity. The cost of their betrayal. But it left scars. My family, the people who'd raised me, had seen me as a hurdle. Not a daughter, a sister. The pain lingered, a dull ache beneath my victory. I opened my eyes, the garden's colors sharper now. The sun dipping low, the estate was alive again. Its gallery restored, Grandma's art collection open to the public. School groups toured it weekly, their gasps echoing as they saw her Monets, her sketches, her soul on canvas. I'd hired curators, funded scholarships in her name, turned her home into a beacon of creativity. Her legacy wasn't just preserved, it thrived. A soft crunch of gravel broke my reverie. Clara Vaughn approached, her navy blazer swapped for a linen dress, her silver-streaked hair loose. She held a glass of champagne, her sharp eyes softened by the sunset's glow. "Emma," she said, her voice warm, a rare smile curving her lips. "The gardens never looked better. Evelyn would love this." I smiled, my throat tight. "She'd love that you're here. You made this possible, Clara." Clara shook her head, her gaze steady. "You did, Emma. You fought when most would have folded. Those recordings, your testimony, you built the case. I just swung the hammer." I laughed softly, the sound foreign after so long. Some hammer, they never saw it coming. Her smile faded, her voice lowering. "I got an update on your family. Nathan's out on bail, but the fraud charges stick. Diane's in therapy, barely scraping by. Richard's working as a consultant, small-time stuff. They're done fighting. You want me to keep tabs?" I stared at my glass, the bubbles rising, my heart steady but heavy. "No," I said, my voice firm. "They're not my family anymore. Let them live with what they did." Clara nodded, respect in her eyes. "You're stronger than I was at your age." Evelyn knew that. A flashback hit. Grandma in her hospital bed, tubes trailing, her hand frail but warm in mine. "You're my heart, Emma," she'd whispered, her eyes bright despite the pain. "Don't let them dim your light." I blinked back tears, my fingers brushing the locket. "She saw me," I said, my voice thick, when no one else did. Clara raised her glass, her voice soft but clear. "To Evelyn, and to you, Emma, her true heir." I met her gaze, my eyes shining but steady. "To Grandma," I said, raising my glass, the champagne catching the last rays of sunlight. "And to Justice." Our glasses clinked, the sound crisp, final. The breeze carried it away, mingling with the rustle of roses. I sipped, the champagne cool and bright. A promise kept. As Clara walked back to the house, I lingered, the garden wrapping me in its embrace. The sunset painted the sky in gold and crimson, a canvas Grandma would have loved. I spoke to the air, my voice a whisper, meant only for her. "I did it, Grandma," I said, tears slipping down my cheeks. But my smile unbroken, I protected it, for us. The roses swayed, their petals soft against my fingers. And for a moment, I felt her laughter, her warmth, her pride. My family had tried to break me, but I'd risen, not with hate, but with love, for Grandma, for her legacy, for the woman I'd become. I turned toward the estate, its windows glowing like beacons. The fight was over, the scars would fade, but her light would burn forever. I was Emma Claire Dawson, and I was home. The end. If you find the story interesting, please like and share this video and leave a comment with your opinion. Don't forget to subscribe to Sweet Revenge and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new videos.